Rocco, growing up in a family with a former college football player, NFL player, NFL, XFL quarterback or coach.
Yeah, I feel like at least coming from that background, you certainly, have been in the moment before. And, you've been on the sideline, you've been around the game. I think Coach Beck, from Anthony's standpoint, got raised in a great family and certainly not just in terms of the character development, but the football development, I think has a lot of wisdom and poise. And, I think that's the one thing from Rocco since he's gotten here. You've watched him diligently approach the game of football. How he studies the game, understanding that even the position he plays is more than just playing. There's a leadership component. There's a holistic proponent to it, and I think he's done a great job of handling that. And I certainly think his background has helped him for sure.
Do you look for that?
Yeah, boy, we all say we look for it. I think you certainly do. But you just don't know. I think, again, until a young man leaves home and gets to these environments and, gets put in the competitive situation, goes through good days, goes through bad days, I think the growth process that we see for young men from 18 to 22 is phenomenal. But I certainly think you look for some of those characteristic traits of, being around the locker room, loving football, passionate about the game, and obviously Rocco's background certainly has a lot of that. Kind of like my Rocco, yes.
Last week, 45 plays. The crack crew here figured that was the least in a win since 1961.
Yeah.
I think it points to efficiency, actually. I mean, what would you say about that, to be able to get 24 points offensively with just 250 yards and 45 plays?
Yeah, I think the flow of the game was unique a little bit, and I think that certainly plays into that statistic. I think where you saw growth from where we wanted to be better offensively from a year ago was efficiency on the plus side of the 50. And I thought those were things that were definitely benefits to what we saw in the videotape. And obviously you would have loved to extend some drives, a little bit. There was some in the second half where, we didn't start off with great field position and then we never helped our defense out. And, it's the game of football. And I think there was a lot to take from that videotape that, as a team we can continue to learn and grow from. And I think we have great opportunity for growth. But I thought the efficiency point of what we did offensively Saturday was a positive. Took care of the football, made plays in critical situations. And, the growth opportunity now to grow forward from it, I think, is certainly a huge positive.
Excuse me. How would you describe Caleb Bacon first day on campus as a walk-on to where he is now as a redshirt sophomore?
Yeah, I think what's fun about Caleb is, Caleb's one of those guys. I'll still remember his breakout moment, and it was, the 21 winter conditioning, and this kid keeps winning all the winter conditioning drills, and I'm like, man, who is this guy? And it's Caleb Bacon, and then you kind of fast forward going into the 22 season. You get to fall camp, and it's like, man, this guy keeps showing up, and he keeps showing up. And the next thing you know, we're playing him and starting him on, and he's beating some good players out on some critical special teams units. And I feel like from that time forward, he's taken and I think if you look at some of our really good players, they've kind of come through that realm. Jake Hummel had that trajectory. Gary Vaughn's had that trajectory. Caleb right now is on that trajectory. So, I think certainly the benefit is some of the people before him showed him a pathway of what it looks like to be successful. The courage and commitment that he's had to kind of own it and really just continue to grow forward from it. You hope that's what our football program's about, and certainly guys like Caleb, they are the glue that makes our football team our best when we have guys like that performing the way he's performing.
Did you really not know who he was at that time? I mean, he hadn't been around long.
Yeah, it was one of those like, man, who the heck is this guy winning all these reps? So you knew who he was, but you were shocked that in that day it was Hummel and some of those other guys in that group, and it's like, man, this guy's really competitive and really showing up.
To piggyback off Rob's question about the number of plays, I think you guys were one of 4 or 5 nationally that didn't get to 50 plays. Mm-hmm. Is that the new timing rules, or what are your thoughts on that globally? And does that affect how you guys are able to evaluate Saturday, where you probably only got 35 plays from Rocco?
Yeah, no, I think I think evaluation-wise, we got great evaluation. The amount of players we played, and I think it was, upwards of 70 plus in the football game. And, on all three phases of the game, you got to see a lot of guys do a lot of different things. And I think that was hugely positive. And, the new timing rule is certainly a little bit unique. I think on average this past, the first week 0 and week 1, it's 9 possessions per team, so that's probably down 2 or 3 possessions a game, but like I said, I do think this past Saturday was a little bit unique, just kind of the circumstance of the football game. And, I think John would tell you too, we had a couple chances to get off the field on 3rd down, get the ball back and some other opportunities, and we just didn't do that either. And so, again, when I say team-wise, it's kickoff return, it's, you get those penalties, you start backed up a little bit, you don't get off 3rd down. So some of those things in the middle of that 3rd quarter through the middle of the 4th quarter, weren't as efficient as we wanted to be as a football team.
If that sustains when you're a month from now and you're looking, we're still 2 or 3 possessions short of where we have been, does that change your decision-making in terms of going forward on a 4th down or just clock management or anything like that?
Well, I just think it's game management, period. I think that one thing we've tried to do a really good job, and I feel like we've been really good at this, is trying to always put ourselves in the best position to win the game, whether it's, pick the tempo up, slow the tempo down, do you got to pressure more, what's the flow of the game? And I do think that's a little bit of the positive of our staff being together. I think we can have that conversation at times on the headset, and even in game you may think it's going to go one way, and obviously as we all know, it never goes the way you feel like it's going to go. So I think it's having the ability to adjust within the game to put the setting and the pace of the game your way. But I do think the new clock rules certainly will have an impact on the football game for sure.
When you talk about Rocco's, poise and understanding and preparation, how important is that going against a team like Iowa that kind of looks to disrupt on defense?
Yeah, I think it's going to be big. I honestly, I think the credit that you give Iowa so much is just their ability to play good defense. They've been nothing short of exceptional on that side of the football. I think in some ways a little bit like us, they kind of know who they are. They know where their help is, and they're going to play really hard, and they're going to be really physical. And so, I think that no matter Rocco or any of the other 10 players that are out on the football field, efficiency and fundamentally sound is going to be critical. And if not, you're going to get exposed.
Hi, Coach. You talked a lot about the rule changes. Nate's obviously in his first year calling plays. Do you think that there's maybe a little bit of an advantage in him not having experience with the old clock rules and now just learning what the new rules are?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question. Maybe time will tell on that. I don't know per se if the new clock rules are that drastic to where it's having such a huge effect, but I do think maybe in a couple weeks we'll know a little bit more about it. But whatever I would say on that is I thought Nate did a great job Saturday. His first game calling plays, I thought really settled in. I thought the offensive staff did a really good job, put our kids in a really good position to be successful.
As you look forward to his second week of calling plays, what areas of growth in terms of communication with the players are you really trying to look and see at?
Well, we're just so young across the board on that side of the ball. I just think holistically on offense, you just want to continue to watch that group grow forward. Whether it's the read at the tailback position, whether it's a block here, or whether it's efficiency there. I thought, communication in game. You didn't have many pre-snap penalties in the football game. I thought, getting the plays in. I thought our efficiency of the football plays. I thought all that stuff was really good. So I think when no different than the player or the coach, I think just getting through and getting an opportunity to grow forward is huge, and I think everybody got that opportunity on Saturday.
Hey, Coach. So I wanted to talk about Jalen Knoll for a quick bit. So obviously you got to coach him for the past couple of seasons and see him grow as like a player and as a man. So what are you expecting to see from him this season to make another jump in his play this season?
Yeah, I just think that I think one of the things that I love about Jalen is Jalen wants to be great. And from the first day that he stepped on campus, and, you know, again, and when you say Jalen, I flash back that his big brother was Brock Purdy, you know, and those two guys were training that whole January together in February and March. His first freshman year, he was a mid-year guy, and those two were kind of at the hip. And, you know, I feel like Jalen just has, from day one, he's accelerated his growth in our football program, how he practices, how he goes about everything. I mean, to be voted as a captain as a junior, I think is certainly telling of the man and the person. And, you know, I think as any player that wants to be great, sometimes you paralyze yourself because you want to be so great so bad. And, you know, I think at between 18 and 22 years old, you're going through that journey of confidence. And, you know, man, you always, you know, Jalen doesn't always have to make the big play to be a great player, and that's the one thing that I talked to him about, you know, this offseason. I think it's been really fun to watch. I thought Saturday he had a phenomenal football game. He impacted the game in a multitude of different ways. He had some huge blocks. Obviously, the punt returns were great. You know, and you know, it wasn't a game where we sat there and just threw the ball over the place. And so, you know, for that guy to walk out and play an A football game and not feel like he had, man, he let the team down one way or another, I think that's huge. But I think that's the only thing for him is the confidence to know no matter what he gives our football team, as long as it's his best, it's enough.
As you took a deep dive into the offensive line and how it looked against UNI, what maybe needs to be a little bit better there, and maybe some of those newer guys that were in there, what impressed you about what you saw there?
Yeah, I thought they were really physical, you know, and I thought the offensive line, the pass protection was improved. You know, I thought there was a lot of really good growth in the football game. You know, I just think the holistic piece of it is, you know, the running backs, the tight ends, and O-line just continuing to grow together, you know, and there were a couple plays where, man, there were some really good things happening. We were just maybe a hair off. And so I just think that's part of the growth process and seeing a different defense, seeing, you know, you're going to see another different defense this coming week. And, you know, just being able to handle, you know, the growth process that group's going to have. You know, you talk about some of the new guys. I thought James Neal played really good for his first start. You know, continues to show why he, you know, deserves the right to be on the football field, and that was really exciting. I thought Jim Boniface really played a great football game. You know, I think Jim's got a chance to be a tremendous football player, great leader, great young man, a guy that's really earned the right to be on the football field as well. So, you know, that stacked with some of those veterans, it was really good to watch that group continue to grow forward.
15 or so years ago, it was a deal in the Big 12. It was conversation that coaches to submit availability lists, you know, X number of hours before a game. What the Big Ten's finally doing now. Would you be in favor if
Yeah, I probably don't even think about it, but absolutely. If it was standard across the board, absolutely.
Standard across the Big 12 board or national board?
Probably national board and certainly the Big 12 board too. So, you know, it's probably not something that I'm going to sit there and say, man, I really believe in this or this. I think at the end of the day, you know, you're so worried about yourself anyways that you're not really, at least in the coaching world, as much worried about what's going on elsewhere, your opponent or who you're preparing for. Because I still think in our world, it's the team that you put out there, not the team the other people put out there that you're worried about the most.
I'm presuming you'll have Skip or somebody look at Iowa's participation list when they
put it out.
When
Yeah,
they put it
sure,
out.
absolutely.
Okay, another kind of sort of away from the field. What if, in the way the conference expansion's going, you know, Lord knows where we're going to end up.
Yeah.
What would your thoughts be if the big business of expansion initially caught up with the Cyhawk football game and it is no more?
Yeah, you know, obviously, that's our world is continuing to evolve and change, and I, you know, this is a great rivalry football game. It's a great game between two great schools and two great institutions, and you know, I think it's great for our state, and I've said that, and you know, I think the world that we're living in is an unknown across the board, and I think it's hard to even make statements about any of it because you just don't know what the ramifications are. Man, are you going to play 10 conference games at some point? Are you going to play 11 conference games? Where are we going to, and what's it going to look like? So I think time will tell, but obviously I'm a huge proponent of the game just because I think it's so great for our state. I think it's a great test for both teams in the early part of the football season. And, I think what I've also said, it's a very unique rivalry game too. You got two teams that are so close that are in two different conferences. And, you played that game at the beginning of the season rather than the end of the season. So I certainly think it makes it a unique football game for sure.
Coach, going into last season, Iowa State had not beaten Iowa in quite some time. You get that win. Compared to the mindset of the team last year going over there, is there, less pressure, more confidence in your guys going into this game this Saturday, knowing that the monkey's off the back, so to speak, against Iowa?
Yeah, I don't know if we felt one way or another other than the fact of, man, last year it was a big road game, early road game for our football team. Obviously, it's a game that, has rivalry football across the board on it. And, it was great. It was great for us a year ago to be able to get in, and we quite honestly didn't play a very good football game, but to be able to win the football game was a positive for last year's team. And we're so young right now, it's like, man, I think there's two things. Number one, this game and what comes with it, but biggest thing is, man, our young football team growing from week 1 to week 2. So I think there's a lot of inward right now on our football team of how do we grow forward, how do we take that videotape that we watched a year ago. Obviously this game's got great components to it. It's a great game to be a part of and be in, but if you're worried about all that and not worried about getting better, then obviously this game can paralyze you as well.
Do you expect to still play more than one quarterback, or is this kind of Rocco's show to lose this
Yeah,
point?
I think, again, you were such at the beginning part of the football season. I think you're going to continue to evaluate practice and, evaluate, what we do week in and week out and really day in and day out right now with kind of the competition across the board. But I think Rocco certainly put himself in a great position to be the starter, obviously, this coming week and, just continue to move himself forward and grow forward. Honestly, my guess is just how football goes. We'll need both those guys to continue to grow forward if our team wants to have success.
Coach, when you look at Iowa, a new quarterback, obviously, with Cade McNamara, gives them a different look, maybe more dynamic on offense. What have you seen on tape? What impresses you about him? And does that make you maybe have to throw out tape of years past when you look at this Iowa offense?
Well, I think when you look at the whole Iowa offense, I think you still look at a team that's got great tight ends. You see a team that's got a veteran offensive line. Their tailback played a year ago and really had a great year as the season went on. And two tailbacks that have had a lot of experience playing. And, you got receivers there that have played good football for them. And so, I think you'd be foolish to say you're going to throw it out because I still think there's a lot of fabric of who they are and who they want to be and what they are at their best. And I think at the quarterback position, obviously the respect factor that you have for a young man that has had the success in college football that Cade's had, you can tell, very smart, very intelligent, the people, his players believe in him, and I think that's exuded off the videotape. So be a really great challenge, another great challenge of another really good quarterback this week for our defense.
Coach, especially since you've taken over in this series, dating back to every PSYOP game being played almost, we see wacky, just unexpected plays that happen. Is that just the product of a rivalry, and how do you get your guys ready for, a punt return, two guys going into each other?
How do you get ready for crazy is that what you're saying? Yeah, I don't know. I think a little bit of some of the uniqueness that happens, like I said, one of the unique things is this game is so early in the season. I think both teams are still developing their identity and kind of growing into who they're going to become in the football season. But I think that makes it, a unique challenge, and also it certainly makes you be ready to be fundamentally sound and be disciplined. And there's times we've been able to do that, and there's times we've not. And so I think that's the uniqueness a little bit of such a big football game, such an early part of the season.